What if you could bring your studio anywhere? No plugins, no calibration mic, no setup, just your headphones and a perfectly tuned control room inside them. Well, this is the ARC On-Ear by IK Multimedia, and it's about to change the way we mix and monitor on headphones forever. So intro, and then we'll talk more about this really beautiful and tiny stuff. Hi everyone, I'm Steex, Audio Media Production. Welcome to my YouTube channel, welcome to my studio, the place where I try out audio gear. Today, I'm gonna show you this brand new ARC On-Ear, and I test with you, showing also the sounds. This video is sponsored by IK Multimedia. I have to send a huge thanks to IK Multimedia because they provide me this gear to try out, to make a video here for you, and also to test more, providing feedback, of course. However, all the opinions will be mine as always. So let's start saying, what is this ARC On-Ear? Well, it's a standalone DAC, an headphone amplifier with onboard DSP that performs in real-time headphone calibration and virtual monitoring. There is no software running in your 𝙠𝙗. All processing happens inside this unit. It's super small, it's built in metal with a high-end ESS SABRE 32-bit converter, a digitally controlled analog volume stage, as you can see, and up to 200 milliwatts of output power. As you can see, you get a USB-C and an analog input, a full-size headphone output, and a rechargeable battery for up to 4 hours of completely portable use. As you can see, it's powered on and there is no any cable because there is a battery inside. Basically, is your reference system in a palm of your hand. As you know, every pair of headphones has its own sonic fingerprint. So ARC On-Ear uses high-resolution FI correction filter to linearize the frequency response of hundreds of supported headphone models. You can enable phase align for perfect phase response, tweak the tone to make it slightly brighter or smoother, so maybe warmer, and even store up to 5 completely independent presets. Each preset can also be named, tuned, and loaded directly from the unit. So no computer needed once you're done, and of course, no softwares. But the real magic happens with the studio simulation mode. This is not a reverb trick or an impulse response. It's a physically modeled environment that recreates the behavior of real studio monitors in an acoustically perfect control room. The result is a natural, of course, stereo field with realistic depth, width, and space. No exaggerated panning, no fatigue, just clarity and dimension, let's say. You can even switch between over 20 virtual studio monitors, from mastering rooms, of course, to consumer devices, to check how your mix translates instantly. I've been testing it for the past few days, and what really stands out is the consistency. So whatever I'm monitoring from my interface, from a laptop, or from a phone, the ARC On-Ear sounds identical. And that's because all the calibration profiles are created using the same amplifier circuit built into the hardware itself. Translation: what you hear is always reliable, repeatable, and neutral. The noise floor is extremely low, and the THD, so the harmonic distortion, is really impressive with a dynamic range that goes up to 170 dB at 300 ohms, which is a lot. So the ARC On-Ear is not just a correction, is a mastering grade clarity in a travel size, as you can see, device. So now let me show you all in detail, and I also show you how it sounds with different, of course, headphones with and without the calibration. So as you can see, this is basically my interface, and it's pretty clean, and I really like how it's very simple and also intuitive to understand. Well, on the top we have the frequency response. Now it's linear because I'm not chosen any headphones, let's say. Here you can choose between frequency response or the space, and as you can see we have basically a recreation of a room, and as you can see we have also these two monitors that are in, let's say, gray, are not so visible because I'm not chosen any monitor. So let me show you how to use the ARC On-Ear software. You have to start from the left and then you go to the right, how you normally read if you are not Arabic, of course. It's not 100% true because you have to start to choose your headphone. And as you can see here, we can select the headphone. And as you can see, I have a lot of headphones that I can choose from. And I can also recognize the headphones from basically the visualization, because if you know some of these headphones are really famous, you can also see here the browser basically per each brand. I want to show you today the brand that I own. So for example, these are my Holo Audio S5X. These are the mastering version open back headphones. So let's see if we can also write here Holo, for example, Holo Audio. And as you can see, we have all the Holo Audio available. So these are the S4X, we have the S5X, and the last one, the X1. So I can choose, for example, this one, and I can also place this with the star because it's my favorite. And also if I go here to favorite, I can see that I've selected my Holo Audio. Let me, for example, choose another one. For example, this one is my 𝙤𝙤 M100, extremely well-made headphones. So I can choose, of course, the 𝙤𝙤 here, and I can choose from show all, sorry, 𝙤𝙤. As you can see, these are all the 𝙤𝙤 available at the moment. At the moment, you have 250 headphones available, which is a lot, in my opinion, to start the software. And these are the MM500, no, this one, MM100. Let's start it and let's choose another brand, which is basically this one. These are, let me show you, very expensive headphones, and these are the Head, and basically this is the first version. Headphone are called Headphone because there is also the Headphone 2, Head 2, but this is the first version, and I can show you that you can find also this headphone here. If you write correctly, Head, you can see here that you can have the Headphone 1, which is my version, or the Headphone 2. So let's start it. Now, if I go to favorite, of course, I have to clean the research. If I go here to favorite, I have basically my three main headphones. I have also other closed back headphones, but these are my open back headphones, okay? So, for example, let's choose the, let's say, 𝙤𝙤 one, okay? You can see also some information here. So the brand, the type, the impedance, because different also headphones has different impedance. Maybe you can also request your own headphone. I don't know, maybe in the near future. Anyway, I've chosen my model here, okay? Here I have my headphone. So now you can basically start from the left. Input, you want or not the calibration on, you can decide on or off. And you have to go here to frequency response. So without the calibration, this is the response of your headphone. So you can see the response of your headphone in light blue, okay? And I already reviewed this headphone, and I remember that these headphones are really dark, smooth in the high frequencies, and I can see here this behavior, and also mid-focus, let's say. Sorry for my voice, but I flew. If I engage the calibration here, as you can see, now the response is basically flat. As you can see, I have a flat response because all headphones has been calibrated by IK Multimedia. So you can also decide if you want the phase align or not. And as you can see, it's changing the behavior, the post curve here with the phase align. You can also decide here in the calibration if you want brighter or darker response. And you can choose here. If you go to brighter response, it's changing with a tilt, as you can see, or to darker, so to warm sound, is changing again with a tilt. So you can decide the response of your headphones. If you want maybe the calibration not perfectly flat, but with some character, you can decide this. So let me place now at 0, so again at the beginning. Then you want or not a simulation, because you can also use these headphones with the calibration, so with the ARC on ear active, with the calibration on, and you can use it to master, to listen to the music as you want. So basically this is a correction, like any kind of software almost nowadays does, but this is really accurate in my opinion. Then if you want this simulation of the studio, which is not a frequency response, let's say, as I said, is basically a physically modeled response of the studio without the problem of studio, so without the reverberation, the reflection of the studio. I don't know how it's been done, but they did it, okay? So if I basically place the simulation of the studio, I can clearly listen that my space will be no more like all to the left and all to the right on the headphones, but will be just a bit narrow because it's more in front of me, like my speaker, okay? And this studio simulation simulates basically what you will listen in a studio. So for example, when you have the headphones, what you can hear in the left ear is basically only from the left pad, but it's not the same in a studio. In a studio, my left ear, for example, can listen also the right speaker because it's going also on the room, okay? So this is the simulation on how you can potentially listen in a physical studio using, so wearing, of course, your headphones. And this is crucial. It's not an impulse response. It's really a physical modeled simulation. And you can decide the width. So if you want, again, the speaker like here, like an headphone, or if you want, for example, in a real, let's say, equilateral triangle shape. And you can also decide if you want ambience or not. I'll show you all the difference also with a recording later. Then you can decide if you want a response of a speaker or not, because as you can see here right now, the response is not changing if I engage the studio simulation or not, because the response is always the response of my headphone. So if I engage speaker, as you can see, it's changing a lot the response. You can change different kind of speakers here. Again, you have lots of different speakers. Speakers for mastering, speakers for mixing, speaker for example, for TV, as you can see here, or the portable Bluetooth speaker. Again, if I choose this one, you can see the response of the speaker. Or if I choose a mastering grade kind of speaker, for example, let me see, I know something like P mastering, this one, I think it's something like Quasar or Quasar, something like that. As you can see, the response is totally different. You can see all the low frequency response. And if you want, you can engage or not, of course, the response of a speaker, of a real speaker in real studio, as you can see. You can have the speaker only if you engage the studio simulation, of course. So you cannot toggle the speaker if you not engage the studio simulation, okay? As you can see, you can also monitor your battery level because you can use this alone with battery. Right now it's powered by the USB-C, of course, but you can also use without the USB and without the software, because the software is only to decide what you want to engage inside the and bring with you inside the ARC on ear. But you can use without the software, and you can use, for example, with this, I don't have here, but it's here. This is the cable that you can have, basically the 3.5 millimeters cable. You can also disengage, for example, the adapter, and you can plug this directly from your Mac, from your iPhone, from whatever kind of device. And this is basically your portable studio, because here you can have the profile of your headphone that you can choose, the simulation of a studio. So basically you can bring with you this, and it's your entire studio sound in your ear. That's very cool. Moreover, you can have, of course, 5 different presets. So for example, this is my first preset. let's say, and I can go, for example, to the second, and I can choose a different headphone, for example, from my favorite, my headphone, for example. And this could be my second preset. I can engage the calibration. You can see also the response of these headphones. I can have virtual response, for example, of course, with the studio. I can choose different speaker. For example, with this headphone, I want a different kind of simulation. And for example, I can choose, let's say, I can choose TV, okay? Or I can choose phone. Let's choose phone. Because maybe when I'm traveling, I want to also to check my mixes with the simulation of a virtual speaker. As you can see, this is the simulation of a phone. That's why when someone of my client listen the result of a mix in a phone and tell me something, I don't care so much. And I wanted you can listen the song from a proper environment to judge something, okay? Not a phone, of course. Anyway, you can engage or not the simulation, and you can do that also here on the ARC ON here. So as you can see, we have, of course, the studio button here. As you can see, it's changing also here. I can engage or not with a click, and I can engage or not my calibration. As you can see, it's changing also the response. And then I have this FN button. This is whatever. You can decide to assign to this button whatever you want, and you can choose from this FN button assignment. So I can choose to engage or not the phase alignment, the virtual speaker, the mono compatibility. This is really interesting. The 𝙠𝙗𝙀, so the volume, mute, LED off. So for example, you can engage or not, as you can see, the LED. Maybe you are working during the night and don't want to disturb your wife anyway, or your girlfriend anyway. You can also use play and pause. I don't know how it will work. Maybe it will work with Spotify. Anyway, as you can see here, I have my preset 1, and when I engage the preset, it's all recalled. So my first headphones, the Odyssey, with a different virtual speaker, and I can choose, of course, if I want to engage or not. Or I can go to preset 2. You can also customize the presets inside here. Don't remember how to do that. Maybe it's better to choose. Here, as you can see, we have the status of my preset. So this is the second preset. If I go here, this is the first preset. Okay. So you can see, you can monitor the presets, and this is, of course, the volume of your ARC on here. Okay, preset change. I don't remember how to do that, so let me check it. With the device turned on, press and hold the FN button, then press the calibration button to enter preset selection mode. One of the preset letters will be blinking. Oh my God. Okay, FN and cal. Okay, it's blinking. Okay, I'm recalling the preset too. So again, okay, you can go basically up and down. FN, calibration, so I can switch like this, okay? It's working pretty well. Let's now test the sound with and without the calibration and the virtual simulation of the speaker. This will be, of course, an empirical test because of Jimmy. This is Jimmy, my friend, that have a lovely ear, and as you can see here, there is the XLR. Inside the ears, there are 2 microphones, and of course, it's an empirical test because depends on the response of the microphone inside the ears. So let's listen. So guys, summing up, I think that the concept here is pretty revolutionary. Taking the ARC technology that's been defining room correction for years and putting it in your headphones completely standalone. That's really great. So for engineers who travel or anyone mixing in less than ideal rooms, ARC on ear of course means hearing your work exactly as it really is. So it's precision, freedom and confidence, all in one pocket-sized box. So guys, you have the link in the description to purchase this little box. The intro price is $250, let's say, including the ARC on-ear control software, of course. Check the link in the description to know more, and of course, leave a comment below, let me know what you think about this tiny revolutionary product, and I'll see you, of course, in the next video. Bye!